Today on Lead Stronger Longer, I am joined by Philip Jayhawk Chan. I'm so excited to have you here. Philip is the CEO of Lightspeed Investing. He is a powerful example of how burnout can absolutely become breakthrough.
Absolutely.
Once an aspiring surgeon, Philip walked away from medicine after more than a decade of training to discover a new path. Now he's helping professionals achieve financial independence through futures and options trading. And his story is one of resilience, no question about that, of reinvention and redefining success, but not by prestige, by performance and by purpose. I'm so honored to have you here as my guest. Welcome. Our first question is always, what guides you? What's your mantra or your favorite quote? What's your guiding
Mm,
principle?
I love it. I love that question. For me, I moved initially from the city of international commerce, right, which is Hong Kong, and I've been Jayhawk raced ever since then in Kansas since 9 years old. And so my guiding principles, having been raised here in a championship state for both basketball and football, is what I consider to be championship excellence and the rules of success, right, from sports. That is the foundation that I was raised with. And why I love it is regardless of whatever industry you're in, championship excellence applies to all areas in life.
So, can you give us an example of how that shows up for you tangibly?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it is at this point, having studied success, having studied wealth creation and those championship excellence principles, right? It's like the fundamentals of the game, right? But except it's fundamentals of life for success. So what it looks like is I am now able to be a walking encyclopedia of these principles so that regardless of whatever circumstance may come up in life, in business, in relationships, immediately I'm able to have a knee-jerk reaction to go, oh, right, well, remember that principle? Let's act accordingly. And from that principle, right, take the appropriate actions and adjustments.
Brilliant. So, in your bio, and
Hmm.
one of the key things that really stood out when I was looking at your bio and components of how far you've come and what you've done is that piece around um, going the medical route,
Yeah.
which is often that whole paradigm of become a lawyer or a doctor or accountant, and so many do that, and so many follow that you're supposed to do this, and there is no question that is a recipe for burnout and for losing your soul.
Hmm.
Unless, if that's for you, awesome. But
Right.
what I'm seeing is more and more of this, and you're a beautiful example of how you've turned this around. So let's start there. Normally, I'll ask, like, what led to your specialization?
Sure.
Tie that in, and then also, really, if you're willing to go there,
Hmm.
what was the breakdown before that breakthrough?
The breakdown was the family tension between my loved ones and I, because the whole time it was looked at like a sunken cost, right? Like, hey, I was KU's pre-med triple major in 5.5 years. My resume was geared towards surgery. I had over 200 hours in the OR room working with top plastic surgeons, right, in the area, and also considering potentially orthopedic or cardiothoracic. And so it was tough because, of course, according to traditional and conventional wisdom, right, like this is the right path. My sister's a child neurologist, right? A lot of my friends and inner social circles were either in med school and residency or actual doctors. So I would say the family tension, right? Of hey, like why don't you follow that traditional path that you had chosen, that society says is really safe, right? You're gonna have to grind for it, but when you come out as a surgeon, you're looking at plus minus $500,000 per year. Why is that not good enough? And for me, it was not during college that it manifested, but it was after. again, being Jayhawk raised in this championship state, it really had a huge influence in everything that I do and how I approach everything. And so the impetus to own an NBA team, right, really came about during my master's, which, by the way, was just a total facade. It was just an excuse that I was staying busy with something, academically speaking, prior to med school. But really, it was meant to be my own self exploration and reflection journey to identify the best decision, right, that will lead me down to my future path. Because I really didn't know I was struggling in between medicine and entrepreneurship. But of course,
So hang
what is
on,
the
because you're
Mhm.
telling us this story in hindsight, but there's some key pieces that you've mentioned. So you were 200 hours in, 200 hours in knowing, feeling something's off,
Yeah.
but and having a bigger vision. I mean, clearly you have a bigger vision. It wasn't just about money in the
Hmm.
medical world, and it wasn't about saving lives. I don't hear any of that from you. I hear you wanted to, you want this huge impact. You're like
Yeah.
champions, this influence that you want to create. So 200 hours in doing something, what's the feeling that's going on within you mentally, emotionally?
Hmm.
uh, and then you said that this, yes, that's the path, but then you said as you used your masters almost as a building block or as a way for
Yeah.
you to woodshed and
Yep.
figure out what's going on. So that's really interesting. um, can you unpack that just a little bit more? I mean, clearly
Of
there was not
course.
really a breakdown because you're clearly a resilient, you've got lots of energy flowing through you. So unpack that a little bit and give us some of the points. Did you have that championship mindset before? Was that from birth? Is that
Yeah.
something you learned? Did someone tell you that that's what you need to have? And that was what flipped the switch from you to being, hey, I'm taking over my own, like, what happened?
Well,
Because
what
that's
happened was,
intense.
if I really had to pinpoint a specific moment, it was the fact that, yeah, you're right. I'm 200 hours in, and that's just in the OR room, right? That's not even part of the studies. But the idea here is I was interested, right? I was interested in plastics. I was interested in ortho. I was interested in cardiothoracic, but I didn't feel the love. Right? I was not passionate. That's the difference. Interested, but not passionate. And the daily work was a grind. I mean, right? Fast forward to this day, I'm blessed to be able to tell my team as an executive, I work part-time, full-time, and overtime. But at the same time, I do not work at all because I love what we do and I love who I get to do it with, right? And so I knew that part was missing. I just didn't quite know how I would figure it out. Now, the first moment that really gnawed at me was when I had to study for the new MCAT, right? Because I was the newer generation, which is an extended exam now to 8 hours, not four and a half, five, because they added the sociology and psychology section. And to take a mock MCAT, Stephana, it's 8 hours. So it's mentally exhausting, which then leads to physical and spiritual exhaustion, right? And as you can tell, I have a natural business personality. Again, I was groomed to take over my dad's accounting firm in Hong Kong. I just didn't want to wake up in the city. I'm a city boy that loves the suburbs. And two, I did not want to wake up and do people's taxes, right? And so when he asked, "Hey, what do you want to do, kiddo?" I said, "I have no clue. Let me explore the medical field." And at the time, being a surgeon really resonated with me, right? Hands-on aspects. I've been an athlete my whole life, intellectually challenging aspects, and the lucrative career. But the whole point is, as I got immersed in medical field, it's kind of like dating, right? But career dating. Like I thought this was the one, but then as you found out more, like, oh, when I studied for the mock MCATs, it naturally took away my business personality, right? Because the only time I got to speak to someone was when I would go get Starbucks. The only time I would interact with another human being was when I, was trying to go get Starbucks or whatever, taking a little food breaks, which I'm a networker. I love my business meetings, right? So I felt a change internally. It diminished my natural personality, and I did not like that. Right? It was like suppressing my own extroverted, I would say, personality. And on top of that, I mean, just the grind
Yeah,
for
when
and
when did you spot that for yourself though? When did you go, "Oh, wait a minute. Was that 200 after the 200 hours you
yeah.
were grinding
It
because
was, I would say heading into my senior year, because that junior year, Since I did 5.5, I would say it's probably my fifth year because I sacrificed basketball for an entire year. I did not play at all. I just straight studied the MCAT. I mean, I got fat, because that's what you do, right? When you're just sitting, studying 10, 12-hour days. But ultimately, I realized that the reward was not worth the pursuit. Right. That's what I kind of realized for me, right? You have to realize, like, for me, my personality, because it was so hard for a 20-some-year-old me full of energy to like be confined and to have to study and just read textbooks. You know what I mean? Like, wow,
I
my
love that
body's,
you're,
yeah,
yes, I love that you're saying that because this is so crucial. And I think that this is one of the key things that we always talk about at Powerhouse Leaders is we're talking about you
mm,
lose your power the moment you disconnect from your own truth, from
yeah.
what is important to you. And everything you're saying, I don't know that you actually specifically said the word, but connection to yourself. You were saying, I need to interact. I'm not interacting with anyone, and you weren't moving your body and you weren't doing the things. And so, I mean, just your whole energy is this, it
Yeah,
is
I say
about
having
connection.
having
Yeah,
self-awareness first and foremost is so key
super
in
key.
anything that you do. Because I did not have, I would say, the same amount of resilience. I did have a set amount because that's what happens when you go through the rigors of medicine, right? But it was not as defined as it is now, right? Because I had to go through an entire journey to learn these success principles. Because entrepreneurship in and of itself is very difficult as well. Yeah, you're working for yourself, you have the freedom, but you have to come up with sustainable source of income, right? But more importantly, like the championship excellence definitely didn't kick in until later.
So let's talk about that specialization that you've now done. You've
Hmm.
you've now seen, okay, there's something more. I want to own a basketball team, or I want to,
Yes.
there's how am I going to do that? And you clearly like the energy of money and working in that, right? So
As a
how did
tool,
that
as a
lead
tool, because
as
wealth
a
and money,
tool?
right?
Yeah,
As the right tool. Yep, yep. Because it's just another
exactly.
resource for you to
Yeah.
utilize if you know how to use it the right way.
So what made you say this is the work I have to do?
Well, I didn't know that. I just knew that in a broad scale, right, with my business acumen that I developed from Hong Kong, that business was going to be the best way for me to get it done, right? In terms of leaving medicine and creating wealth, utilizing business as a vehicle to fulfill my own personal goals and dreams, right? And
Mhm.
so I knew that if I put myself, right, under the right mentors, if I put myself in rooms where high caliber business owners hung out, right, my probability of success would stack, right? And it's so funny because I'm 2.5 years in business, but because of everything that I've done intuitively, by putting myself in the right environments, I just got a call the other day where, well, first and foremost, we just finalized a deal with a fellow family office fund where we are happy to announce that we manage $500 million, right, with 8-year track record, 40% annual ROI for the investors, right? It has now these are bigger monies, 1 million and up. But because of this partnership, I just got word that Golden State Warriors is selling. I can't give away too much details, but selling a stake, right? For a certain percentage, and the buy-in is 300 to 400 million. But the whole point is, if I was not in this fund space, I would not be even close to getting that information, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's
I
the
mean, it was just
connections.
off
It
of,
goes back to
yeah,
that.
it was off of intuition,
Mhm.
and my vision, right, of knowing, okay, here's the broad picture. Like there's a great saying, success principle, right? Be stubborn on your vision, but flexible on the mechanics. So I kind of go with the flow of things, but I'm stubborn about my direction, and I'm stubborn about my vision, right?
That's a true powerhouse leader. That's a true, the CEO that
Thank you.
has to be in place. And if it's not, that's where,
Strategic persistence, not
yeah,
just banging your head
there you
against the
go.
wall, right?
For
Like,
sure.
you gotta use your brain. I mean, and think things through and make adjustments, as
So
opposed to
how do
just,
you sharpen that? How do you
yeah.
sharpen that? Because you clearly it's a tool and you understand tools as principles. How do you sharpen that?
Mentors and surrounding yourself with the people who have been more successful in your space. So like during that master's time where it was a facade for everyone else except for me, like I binge watched Shark Tank, Stefana. Why? Right? Because I knew I could hang out with Mark Cuban indirectly, right?
Mm,
See, you don't
okay.
always have to be right next to your mentors.
Yeah,
People leave behind books, which is like wisdom of ages, right? And their
sure.
experience. So in my master's, at the time, I really went after like, it was like a mentorship exploration. I found about 20 online mentors.
Hmm.
I mean, I was crazy about studying success. If you just type the word billion on Amazon, books like Billion Dollar Secrets, Homeless to Billionaire, I mean, they're all there for you, right?
Sure.
So I would listen to audiobooks, I read, right, and also go after direct mentorship.
Philip,
And
people listen to the books and they read the books all the time. I'm an avid reader as well. They're not
mm,
becoming billionaires. They're not taking the action. What's the difference between you?
because of the quickness in implementation.
They want the quick
Because
fix.
because because reading and learning, that's just the first half of the battle.
Yes.
The second half is actually applying it. If you don't apply the knowledge, like the first iteration of feedback starts once you have applied it, right? There is no greater lesson than being out in the real world, having to come up with an offer, getting it validated by the market, right? Promoting it and setting up a meeting to where someone is interested enough to actually, transact with you and
Hmm.
getting paid. I mean, that cycle in and out of itself, it has so many lessons, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta lean in on mentorship. My biggest wins is networking and mentorship. But then you're absolutely right. Afterwards, after absorbing the right info, you have to be willing to immediately apply it. And then that's when the real learning starts. The real learning
And
comes from
know
the
what to
feedback.
apply when, because that's the key as well. So, do you have a
Yep.
direct mentor that's literally mentoring you week by week?
Oh yeah.
Or, yeah,
Oh yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Different than a coach, though.
Hmm.
Because there's
Yeah.
coaching programs and you can buy into coaching programs, high ticket ones where you're in the room with other high ticket folks. And so
Hmm.
just by osmosis, you're meeting and doing that. And that's a big game. I totally get that. Lots of folks do that. In terms of this though, is there, I'm much older than you, and the old school was we would get a mentor
Yeah.
who cared about us because we cared enough to show up and ask.
Right.
And there was no money that exchanged hands at
Yeah.
all. It was literally your time and your attention and your care.
That's
And
right.
so I'm more old school with that mentoring piece, but I know
Hmm.
now there's a lot of that. And I'm just curious, do you have that? So I'll just throw somebody out like Brian Tracy, talk
Sure.
about how many books he's written, right?
Hmm.
Anybody can go and avail himself of that. But who are you? Let's say, who are your top three?
Yeah,
You say,
so
you've got
so
to get this.
so my first online mentor was Ty Lopez. Here in my garage, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this individual. 2016, right? And he was my first modern day personal development person that I went to, and he was the one who hammered on the importance of mentorship, right? This is my the last semester of my college tenure, right, at KU. So that opened up a whole rabbit hole where, I went and explored other mentors like Damon John the Shark, right? Grant Cardone. And John Maxwell. I actually got John Maxwell certified because I found out that I was really passionate about leadership, as is a hugely underrated skill set in business. That's what influenced me to start my own international leadership
Exactly. Yeah.
development firm, right?
Yeah.
But the idea here is, yeah, so these 20, after Ty Lopez, I went and found like 20 mentors. Within the span of like 4 years during my master's, towards the end, I shrunk it back down to my top five. Okay, so it's Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, John Maxwell, and Alex Hermosi. Those are like my like those are like who I go to. And you have to remember,
Okay.
we live in different times now. So
Yeah.
they have I have the ability to get mentored by them, right? Because I've
Sure.
invested in myself and their program. So all I have to do now is I just go to the app or their website because I'm a client, and for whatever situation in business that I want to get some advice on, I just go play that video, or I go do the recordings from live calls if I couldn't attend the live calls, right? If I am able to, then I hop on a live call and I, do a little Q&A. But, that's the idea. It's at your
Okay.
fingertips now,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
So,
that I get it now. Yes. So there's so much of that out there.
mhm.
And the names that you mentioned in my circle, oftentimes some of my peers will say the bro energy.
Sure. But
So
also my
everybody
mentor,
has to
my
have
business
their own.
partners too, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
so
yeah.
not just these mentors, but the people that I work with within the firm, especially at the executive level. That's
Yeah.
why we have different designations according to our strengths and weaknesses. So I
Nice.
I learn from the owner of the firm, right? Who's my business partner? He's about a decade older than me. I also learn from my CIO, right? And that's kind of why we have these designations because they're great and they excel in their areas, and I excel in mine. But if I ever needed to learn something, I know I can go to them for their specified areas of
I
expertise.
love how humble you are in that respect of
Thank you.
I can
Thank you
learn.
so
I
much.
want to learn, and that energy is such an important component for young leaders today. So you're an example of what I want to show and share of this hunger, but not so much that you'll just siphon anybody's BS. You're able to discern and go,
Oh yeah.
this is where I'm going. This is very intentional, and I think that that is super admirable and key for leaders to lead stronger and to lead longer. And I'm really curious now, if you look back at that younger self, would you have told your younger self at first year in one, move in this direction, go into the business, go and study, go to a couple of 10X conferences with Grant Cardone or buy this
Yeah.
book, and or would you have just stuck, maybe you do that path. It's good that you had 200 hours of
Right.
surgery.
No,
I'm
I don't
curious.
think I would have changed a thing. I don't think I
Really?
would have changed a
Okay.
thing because please understand something right now at this private investment firm that I run, we represent a group of medical professionals who are now investment professionals, right?
Mm,
So my business
mm,
partner is a former internal medicine physician, but he
yeah.
would have never taken me on and considered me to be a possible business partner if I didn't have my surgery training, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
It was that camaraderie that allowed us to identify, alignment and opportunities where we might be able to make it work. But that was also his thing. He's like, I would have never just partnered up with someone that internally, ultimately, right? If they were not from from a medical background. So
Mhm.
it's funny how life works, and also the there is no pain without joy, and there is no joy without pain. So sometimes you don't necessarily know the that it's important to break out of what you were doing and transition if you don't have that unfulfillment, right? And so in a way, like it's so funny, success and failure is tied together, right? Because well, first and foremost, there is no failure. It's always just lessons. There's no losses, just lessons, right?
Right.
But they go hand in hand, right?
Yep.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make is if I was to go back and talk to my younger self, I would hammer on success principles like, hey, actually study success, because again, success is the blueprint, right? That you can apply to any field. But if I didn't go through, right, the whole surgeon journey, because remember, I wanted to go and be a surgeon myself. It makes sense. I mean, when I did the whole they had a simulated surgery, right? And like you were supposed to work on like a pair of, I think, pig legs, something like that, pig feet, right? For the stitches. I was on my second one when people were still finishing up their first one. So
Wow.
intuitively, I
Yeah.
knew that, yeah, like I have some pretty good, hand-eye coordination from again being playing basketball, being an athlete my whole life. But if it wasn't for, okay, as I went down that path, then I found out that, oh, I'm only really interested, but it didn't, right, move my soul. It wouldn't have given me that impetus and idea to, hey, maybe branch off to business. And also because of the various factors that I and experiences that I went through, it was not until after college, right? Please remember that I wanted to own my own NBA team, right? Like that was definitely not the case as me freshman year. So I think a lot of people, they sometimes think what could have been, would have been, should have been, but you are exactly where you need to be. The only thing is just have knowing what you're strong at, right? What makes you happy. And knowing what direction you want to go is so key because that allows you to say no to a lot of things and accept
Yes.
the right things.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think that that's really the key because I've had some youth watching this, and I think if there are pieces that we can share that they're willing to look at as, okay, this is my journey. Just because Philip went through that,
Right.
I'll say Jayhawk, that you went through this experience. You're and let's even take Hermosi. I mean, Hermosi
Yeah.
tells his story from front to back.
Yep.
Nobody is Alex Hermosi.
That's right.
Even though he gives everything you know, of his whole story, nobody's going to step into his spot
Right.
in the river where he stepped in. And if folks can understand that and realize and hear more of those like you that have stepped into a higher level of leadership for themselves personally as well as professionally, that it's not this one and done. It is
No.
iterations. It is,
Yeah.
and that it's okay. It's freaking okay that 200 hours in and you said, I'm done. Or masters and you know, 5.5 years, you did nothing wrong. You don't regret it.
Oh, you don't even, I don't even think you know this little detail. When I started my own LLC, it was the last semester of my master's program. I was 98% completed.
Mm,
It was the last semester. Now, just understand this, right? I chose the one master's that I could have a bridge to business and entrepreneurship because all the other ones under KU Met was very clinically related. So I chose the applied statistics, data science, and analytics program under biostatistics because obviously there's a lot of statistics in business, right? So I knew
sure.
I could do a little bridge if I wanted to. But the last semester, Stefana, they had me study was a course on business analytics alongside my comprehensive exam. And remember,
Mm,
at this time, I'm like 4 years into my master's because I was doing it part time while working at Kansas City Orthopedic Institute part time, and I had already gotten a lot of this mentorship under my belt. Right, this is my final year. I was about to graduate, and I just couldn't get over the fact I'm like, why would I ever analyze business as opposed to doing business out in the real world? So
mm,
that was when I was like, you know what, I can't do this. I forwent my master's and I started my own LLC the summer of 2021. It
mm.
was like mid July. So we're exactly 4 years in from when I started my own LLC.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard from this whole piece, you followed an inner compass of truth and
Yeah.
you did not do extremes, meaning you stayed on the path until you were clear enough that this is, or your vision was clear enough that you knew the next
Yes.
path. And I
Right.
love that because I'm very extreme. And I think that that is one of the things that if I look back,
Hmm.
my downfalls and my biggest mistakes were the extremes. And so when you are sharing that story, and it's so important for others to really get the whole picture of you so that you and where you are now, that there is no regret, that it's being fully present with what it is that you're doing and connected to, yes, passion, but also just connected to your truth,
Yeah,
which
and
is so
fulfillment,
key.
fulfillment of the soul. And I
Yeah.
love what you said. There's this key word, no regrets. There is a book called On Living. It's one of my, all-time favorites. It is a compilation of people's regrets on their deathbed. It's an interview,
Mm,
written by, documented by a nurse, right? I think there's like 80 some stories in there of just people on their deathbeds telling the nurse, right, what their regrets
mm.
were. And when you go through that, you're just like, wow, like, truth be told, right, it's pathetic. You're like, this is just pathetic. And it makes you
When did
go,
you read that book? Before or
during my
after?
during my master's, yeah, as a part of
Interesting.
my self-directed MBA, right?
Yes.
My mentorship journey, right, of studying and learning and enhancing my own business acumen. But that was one of those pivotal ones where it just put uh such a strong like gut punch to
Mm,
myself
mhm.
that was positive.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I will never be one of these people.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
there's no way I'm going to be 80 and 90 years old saying whatever. Because, I mean, some of them are pretty ridiculous. Like, oh, you've had an issue with your daughter for, like from a relationship, and it's like you're just now regretting it, while like you're about to die. Like, congratulations, dude. Like, I have no pity, right? So, but yeah, no, really, but like it does that to you. And so
Right.
it made me realize, okay, well, how would I reverse engineering my life if I was to reflect on it, right? Am I going to be proud of myself for going after what I really want to accomplish and not succumb to societal norms, you know what I mean? So
Mm.
yeah, that
Some
book definitely
great
was a
insight, Jayhawk. I mean, such good insight.
thank
And
you.
so our last piece is what are your top 1 to 3 books? And you said On Living, and
Oh, there's
then
so many good ones. It's like I could give you books like according to time frame, but Grits by Angela Duckworth,
for sure.
that that helped. I mean, I would say there are certain books on mindset. I kind of categorize them, right? Like Relentless by Tim Grover
Hmm.
alongside Grit. That's for the resilience piece. Um, if you want an actual handout of success principles,
Yeah.
read OG Mandingo series, right? Like the greatest salesman in the world, part one. There's
Yep.
10 ancient scrolls of wisdom in there.
Did
Part
you
two
do
has,
that book? Did you
yeah,
read for 10 months and do the
of
scrolls?
course. Well, I kind of did it my own way,
Okay.
but I did it
What
my
was
own
your
way. But
own way?
yeah,
Just, I'm curious, what was your own way?
well, I'm blessed to say I have a surgeon's memory now that I've gone through the medical training. So it was like I would read it, and I had it memorized. But more
Mm,
importantly, it was the application, right? So whenever
yes.
something comes up, I would immediately go, "Oh, I remember this principle." Like, so for example, right, a really common success principle is success people don't have bad days, months, or years. They have bad minutes, right? They
Mm,
don't wallow in the negative situation. Like you can wallow for a minute or 5 minutes or 15 minutes, but it's like, okay, immediately you go, what's the solution? Here's the problem. What's the solution? What are my action steps, right, in terms of options that I can take to alleviate that stress? So yeah, I don't have bad days. I may have bad minutes. And that's I think, from I mean, I kind of paraphrased a little bit, but that's one of those principles, right?
yeah,
Like the importance of laughter to enjoy life. I mean, there are so many good ones.
for sure.
Strategic persistence, right? But yeah, the OG Mandingo series, definitely go through them. Part one and part two.
Yeah, those are good. I usually recommend those to my
Yeah.
clients who are uh, sales, just getting a different perspective on that. Okay. Uh, as we wrap this, I'm trying to think for myself if there's anything of a burning question that I have for you. Because I look at you and my goodness, I think, oh, you're so this youthful energy. And I love that. And I can remember that time of my life of having so much energy and just, you know, not not having let's say baggage. But
Mm.
here's the thing, I don't hear that any of your experience would be taken as baggage anyway, right?
No.
Because you're staying
No.
so curious and interested and
Yeah.
connected to others. What's that secret?
Well, so this is a basketball success principle, right? This is the Mamba mentality from Kobe, right?
The what?
So the Mamba mentality from Kobe Bryant,
Mamba.
right? Mamba, yeah, the Black Mamba. If you know basketball, it's like one of his alter ego personas that he takes on when he's on the basketball court. But
That was from
basically,
Kobe?
yeah, that's from Kobe Bryant. Yeah, the Mamba mentality.
Hmm.
So the concept here is right, like you've probably heard the saying, comparison is the greatest thief of joy. Yeah.
The
So
greatest thief of joy.
joy, yeah. So when
Yeah.
you look at someone, they may be successful and they're able to talk to you now from the top of the mountain, but you have no
Mhm.
clue what they went through, right?
Right.
So don't ever compare your chapter to other people's chapters because they could be on their chapter 10,000 while you're still on your chapter 100, right?
Yeah. So
So
what
the
if they're not comparing to another? What if they're comparing to themselves and their
right.
own expectations?
So what you want to focus on is it's you versus you and it's you and you all day, every day. Your goal is to get 1% better every single day. Like if you were a software, Stefana, you're like, I'm only software version number one.
Right.
Okay. Because I am a masterpiece at work. So how do I get the software version one to two, three, and four? And maybe when you look at someone else, you're like, damn, that software is over here at like version 1,000. And they've only been in business for, 2 years or 5 years. And like I'm, you know what I mean? But it's easy to get tricked, to get pulled into these little comparison things. And that's the point that I'm trying to say with the Mamba mentality is your
Okay.
job, okay, at the end of the day is have that tunnel vision and just be aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are and how can you get better,
Yeah.
right? Don't if you see someone having success, praise them, right? Be open to learning, okay, well, how did they achieve that? So you can take parts and go, well, how can I emulate it in my own story? When you said the Alistair Mosey story, I mean, his is all very gym industry
Right.
oriented, right? And
Right.
that's the key the point that I'm trying to say, right? Success principles. It's a blueprint, right?
Hmm.
If you take my story, and I know I still got a long ways to go, but like Grant Cardone, Alex Hermosi, John Maxwell, everyone's story is uniquely different because of the industry, right? And this the environment that they grew up in. But you can if you study enough, there's commonalities, right?
Correct.
And that's the point that I want to get at. Like there's probably commonalities in Alex's story, right, with what I just shared with you too. So, and that's really important to pay attention to is
So the commonalities are going to
yes.
be that the mindset, and yours is the championship mindset. And then the focus, we'll use Kobe's Mamba focus, which is like laser focus
Hmm.
once you know the vision, and then
Yep.
you persist and stay curious, and you surround yourself and ensure that you're surrounding yourself with those mentors because that's what
That's right.
sharpens your saw.
But
Okay,
here's the thing.
anything
Here's the
else?
thing that also draws the mentors to you. Okay. And that's why it's so important for you to work on yourself continuously. Because when you show up, you gotta have things to bring to the table. Like the reason why I'm now in business partnership with a hedge fund manager is because my strength naturally complements his weakness. Well, what are my strengths, right? I hang them around leadership, right? My ability to communicate and for him, right, he is a market wizard, right? He's very technically savvy and he has strong business acumen as well. But there were some things that I saw. I'm like, hey, I could really help you blow up, what you're doing. Would you be open to having a conversation about how that looks? But here's the thing, right? He would never have been open to that if I didn't have enough substance and depth on my end. And so here's the thing about opportunities, they don't ever come to you. Like, don't you ever think that they come to you, right? You have to go out and get them. That they may brush by you, they may present themselves and say, "Hey, I'm right here," but you have to be the one willing to go grab it.
Awesome. So as we close, our focus at Powerhouse Leaders is to align and have the leader be operating at peak performance at work and at home. That we're not
Love it.
sacrificing your energy, you're not sacrificing your relationships, and there's a harmony there. What
Mm.
would your secret be, or what would how do you apply that kind of concept to stay in alignment and keep powered on both at work and at home?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I call this integrated lifestyles, right? Like there is no work-life balance, it's work-life harmony. So it's really simple. I have three pillars, right? And that's why I do what I do. It's business, basketball, and family, right? So to speak. So anything that deviates away from that, I will not engage in. So when I travel, right, mainly I travel, let's say I travel mainly for business, but because of that, I get to see different areas. I attach basketball right afterwards. I really don't care. Like I just came back from Vegas, right? I don't really care about checking out the strip. Like I'm just saying, like this is me, right? Because for me, I'm like, hey, what are your best hoop scenes so that I can check out different basketball courts, like that, because that's what I'm passionate about, right? Now, of course, it's kind of started to evolve over time a little bit more, because of the relationships that I've garnered in different areas and people want to, hang out afterwards. But the whole point is it's integrated, right? So don't look at your life if you're an entrepreneur like work-life balance, it's work-life harmony. If my one of my pillars was right, because business is the main one. If it was music, right, it could be business, music, and family. Where if I travel for business, I'm hitting all the best concerts, museums, right? Like artsy festivals, you name it, because I love music, right? You kind of get the point that I'm saying. So
I
everything
so
is
do, and I
integrated.
love it because
Yeah.
really what it is it's knowing thyself, and
Yep.
that it is taking it down to simplicity. And that's the power. That's the true power because you're connected to your own truth. There's
Hmm.
nothing complicated about it. This idea that things should be complicated is nonsense and depletes your power and
Occam's
dilutes that
razor.
integration.
Occam's razor. In
Right.
in in medicine, we say that.
Yeah.
It's a famous saying, which is basically the best remedy is to keep it simple.
Yes, always. And I think that that's
Always.
a great place to end because I like to complicate stuff. Philip Jayhawk, I loved having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And in terms of how folks can get a hold of you, what's the best way that you want folks to, if they
Yeah.
resonated with you, how would you like them to reach out to you or
Yeah, look, find me on LinkedIn, Philip Jayhawk Chan, right? Message me saying you heard about our discussion from the Lead Stronger Longer podcast, and I'm gonna make sure that my team reaches back out to you. We can go ahead and set up a proper discussion on what's going on in your life. And if whether it be on anything leadership oriented or investing related, we'd love to have a chat, talk more.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for sharing your story of burnout. Not so much in the typical way that we think of burnout,
Hmm.
but there's definitely those components so that we can see that the breakthrough happens when you tap into your absolute sense of self and stay curious. And that is a powerful way to sustain success. I think the gentle reinvention that you did in there invited some ideas that maybe someone would not have thought of before, even for themselves, because they wouldn't have given themselves
Yeah.
permission
And
before.
I'm gonna give you one quick bonus, and
Yeah.
because you used the word curiosity, and you were applauding me for being humble. There's two types of humility. This is what I learned from my first online mentor. Okay, there's what we call outward humility, and most people don't talk about this. They don't teach you this in school, right? So pay attention. So there's outward humility, which is what people perceive as, oh, he's really arrogant when he's just confident, right? But there's the inward humility. And inward humility is no matter how great you're doing, right? Are you willing to learn? Are you
Mm.
will do you stay curious, right, to continue to improve upon yourself? See, when Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and all these NBA superstars celebrate, they could come off as very cocky, right? As they should. But why? But it's because they have enough substance from an inward humility standpoint, right? In
Mhm.
the off season, they were, asking NBA Hall of Famers for advice, things that you don't see. So again, I love this topic because it's not just about staying curious. It's there's a distinction between outward humility and inward humility. And you really know if someone is humble, right? If they are willing to go that extra mile to
Yeah.
continue to improve on themselves.
Exactly. That's our motto here at Powerhouse Leaders is that that is your innate power is when you're tapped into that and not pretending. There's no fake it till you make it. You just stay curious and you do the things. There is no failure, right? Because if
That's
you
right.
can stay in this learning, open, but not to the point where you're having to suck in everybody else's because you don't have enough sense of yourself. So there's
Hmm.
always got to be that balance. And I think that's the key that leaders must take on. That's why I'm always saying lead yourself first. I
Yes.
love this so much. Really wonderful. So, if this resonated, make sure you reach out to Philip Jayhawk Chan. He likes LinkedIn, so check him out there. And his Lightspeed Investing, we'll make sure that those links are in the show notes. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Lead stronger, longer. Until next time, make it a great one. Thanks.
Thank you, Stefano. You take care now.
You too.